Okairi, welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're doing my February 2022 wrap-up. Okay, so this month, I failed at pretty much every single challenge I put to myself. I did read. I have 5 books to share with you today, and all of the books were good books. So I had a really good reading month in that regard. But when it comes to like doing the things that I said I was gonna do, not a good month. Also, I just had to wear this today when I was filming because I just got this scarf, this like handmade Japanese scarf, and it has like ginkgo leaves stitched into it, and I am obsessed. So like, I don't know how to wear scarves on camera. Like, this is what we're working with. So if anyone has any advice for how to fold a scarf aesthetically to show off the patterns, let me know. I just kind of draped it over myself and we're going with it. But it's so soft and comfortable, and I love it.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, now that I went on that tangent, let's come back and talk about what I did read this month, and then I'll do a summary at the end of the stuff that I didn't quite get to and what my plans are for those things in the future. The first book I read in February was actually one that wasn't on my TBR, so good start. But just after I made my official TBR video, I discovered that Maria over on T-Books Magic, I'll have her linked up above and down below, but her and a couple other creators are co-hosting a read-along for the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. And this is a series that I've wanted to read for years. The covers always pulled me in, they're gorgeous, and I just never really prioritized them. And then when I saw that this read-along was happening, I was like, well, this must be the universe telling me now is the time. Basically, for these books, we follow Lady Trent as she reflects on her life through her memoirs. So it's that trope where the main character or the author, the narrator, that's the word I'm looking for, the narrator is older and they are reflecting on their life, you know, throughout their life. I can't talk today for some reason, but you get what I'm trying to say. So it's that trope. And you have to be kind of careful when you do this trope because it can be done in a way that takes all the tension out of the book, because if there's like a moment of like a battle or something, you know that the main character doesn't die. My necklaces are just, they have a life of their own. What is going on? This is the reality of wearing layered necklaces. You know, you always see those Instagram models with like 15 gold necklaces layered. Them shits is all twisted up when they're not taking a picture. I guarantee it. Anyway, now that I got distracted by that again. Wow, this is going to be an interesting filming day. The Memoirs of Lady Trent, right. So you have to be kind of careful with that trope of reflecting on your life, because it can take tension out of certain moments, because you know that the narrator survives, in most cases anyway. But I think it's done amazingly well here. And the narrative voice is also so interesting. She's snarky, she's sassy, and has a lot of like dry, witty humor that's really fun to read. So essentially, Lady Trent is born in a time, I don't remember the exact time frame, but it feels Victorian-esque to me, but that I could just be pulling that out of thin air. But essentially, this is a time when ladies are not supposed to do unladylike things, and being interested in dragons and science is very decidedly unladylike. We know from the nature of these books that now, when she's older, she is the world's leading scientist when it comes to dragons. So we follow her journey, going from, you know, a young girl who's interested in something she shouldn't be, to where she is now, and all of the adventures that happen in between. And it was just delightful, so delightful. Now, if you're looking for like dragon, like battles and, you know, flying on dragons in the sky and stuff, that's not this book. The dragons in this book are like creatures. They're wild animals that will kill you if they get the chance. It's not like an animal companion kind of book, so don't go into it expecting that. But even though it's not like what we would typically imagine a dragon to be in fantasy, it's fascinating. The science behind them is so cool, and you get to see it through the lens of someone who's obsessed with them and loves them, so that joy kind of seeps into you as well as the reader. So yeah, it was fantastically done. I gave this 5 stars. Once I started the audiobook, I could not stop. I do plan to continue with the second book, A Tropic of Serpents, this month, because it's one book per month with the read-along. So if you're interested, like I said, I'll be sure to link Maria's channel, T-Books Magic, down below, and the announcement video, and you can check it out and see if you want to join us. But it's just been delightful so far. The next two books I read were Conqueror's Blood and Death Riders by Zamil Akhtar. So this is the second book in the Gunmetal Gods series. This is the Gunmetal Gods, you can see it behind me. I just did a full review for this on my channel. I'll again have that link down below for you to check out and see if you're interested in this series in general. But this is the second book. And then this is technically a prequel novella, but I wouldn't call it a standalone novella because you definitely at least need to read Gunmetal Gods before you read this. So even though it technically takes place before the events of Gunmetal Gods, you're going to be missing a lot of character references and world building that you get in the first book. So I would highly recommend reading this one after that, but it is a prequel novella. Starting with Conqueror's Blood, I can't say too much about it as it's a sequel, but this book felt so different from Gunmetal Gods in so many ways, but it still felt like a part of the world. I gave Gunmetal Gods 4.5 stars and I gave this book 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. The pacing is... If you hear gasps and whoos and buttons being pushed, Hayato and I just bought Elden Ring and he is playing nonstop and he's just like sweating on the couch right now. Were you fighting a boss?
No, just normal enemy. A little strong.
A little bit. So if you hear background noises, I should have made this disclaimer earlier in this video, but if you hear background noises, what?
I got the new shield.
I've never seen this happy. Not never, but my gosh, the joy I'm seeing. So yeah, should have made that disclaimer earlier, but if you hear background noises, that's that. Anyway, coming back to Conqueror's Blood. This is a mess of a video. Yeah, it felt really different from Gunmetal Gods, but like I said, it still felt like consistent in the world. So the idea of like vengeful, horrifying gods who, you know, view humans as insignificant, that is definitely still present and taken to the next level in this book. So if you really enjoy that, and like the Lovecraftian horror element that goes with it, that is really delved into in this book. So if you like that from book 1, you're gonna love that here. We do, however, do a full POV shift. So we're not in the minds of any of the characters that we got to know in the first book. And that did feel like a big shift to me. I wished that we kind of got a little more of the characters that we spent time getting to know in the first book. Like one of my favorite characters, Kin, like I wanted more of him in this book, but he's only in like 1 or 2 scenes. So in certain cases like that, you just get cameos. In other cases, previous characters are very involved with the plot, but you don't get their perspective or they don't seem to have as big of an impact as they did. So, or as they did previously. So the moments where you interact with older characters, that's really fun. Whew. That's really fun. And you know, oh yeah, you know, you get to find the Easter eggs in the book. That's really fun. But it took me a while to care about and enjoy reading from the POVs that we got in this book. Now, I don't think you're supposed to like the characters that we follow here. You're maybe supposed to sympathize with them, understand their motivations, which Zamil Akhtar does very, very well, building the character and why they do what they do. So that's definitely on point. But you're not supposed to like them. I don't think. But if you like unhinged women, the most unhinged of the women's is in this book. Both of our POVs kind of give off those vibes. The brutality from the first book is also here and consistent. And once I kind of, you know, settled into the perspectives we're going to be getting, the latter half of this book really took off for me. So I really liked the new magic aspect introduced here, which is a reference, you know, to the title Conqueror's Blood. So there is kind of like blood magic involved, which is very interesting. And the finale of this book was amazing. It was amazing. So I'm a big fan of like the god aspect of this book that I mentioned in the beginning, and that comes to full fruition, and it's so, so, so good. So I really did enjoy this book. Again, I can't go too much into it because it's a sequel, but let's move on and talk about Death Rider a little bit. Death Rider, like I said, it's a prequel novella. It's very short. I still tabbed the shit out of it for how short it is. But this book has the Lovecraftian horror times 1,000. I think I said I gave this 4 stars, but upon reflection, I think I'm going to bump it up to 4.5 because this book is just, it's so hard to describe this book. Basically, this takes place in a battle that is referenced in Gunmetal Gods. And it is, when you want to talk about brutal, this is brutal. There is no mercy. And the gods aspect of this is mind-bendingly weird. It's so weird, but I love it. I really do. Basically, we enter this story where a woman is going to be killed by the firing squad by her own army for a mistake that she made, but when the person tries to shoot her, the gun malfunctions and the bullet gets stuck in the barrel, so she gets like a second chance at basically an honorable death. She doesn't get a second chance at life, but she gets the chance to die in an honorable way. And so we follow her as she's like on the front lines of this battle. You could not imagine where this goes. Like all of the thoughts that you might have in your head, oh, maybe this will happen, this will happen. It's not what happens. It's not what happens. And it's so good. So I really, really enjoyed this. Like I said, I have a full review for Gunmetal Gods down below. Please go check that out if this sounds like it's interesting to you. I think I forgot to mention in both of these reviews, but this is like a grimdark, Middle Eastern-based fantasy. And it's way different from a lot of fantasy you've read before. I can guarantee that. The next book I read was Children of Ruin, which is the sequel to Children of Time, which I have behind me here, which I adored. So the first book is about... You done? The next book I read is Children of Ruin, which is the sequel to Children of Time, which I have behind me here, and I adored Children of Time. So basically, Children of Time follows humans as they are basically using cryosleep, you know, on spaceships to go far away from Earth and terraform other planets to try to kind of start a new human race in different areas of the universe. And at one point, something goes awry, and the evolutionary virus that you're supposed to put into the species to help them go through evolution quicker gets into spiders. And we end up with sentient, very intelligent spiders in the first book. And it deals with a lot of, you know, usual sci-fi themes of like evolution, human nature, things like that. So the second book is connected to the first book, and we get the characters from the first book. They come back on page. And honestly, I never thought I would be so excited to see a giant spider on a page, but I was like, oh, Portia! Like, I was so excited. So we do get those characters in the second book, but it's not tangentially, but it's connected in a very disparate way, which I thought was really interesting. So in the second book, there's a lot of things going on here. The first part of this book felt a lot different from the second part of the book. The first part of the book reminded me of Children of Time with the idea of terraforming. We start again with terraforming another planet with different alien species that we're dealing with, and with there's also octopuses. So I'm not going to say any more than that, but there are octopuses involved in this book. And I actually have behind me right here The Soul of an Octopus. Oh no. The Soul of an Octopus, which is a nonfiction book that I adore. So I'm really interested in octopuses. So I was excited that this book had like cephalopods as one of the main things that we were looking at. And then the second half of this book felt almost like The Troop by Nick Cutter. Like the body horror that starts taking place in this book was not something I expected, and it really took me off guard. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it. It was just a very sudden shift. So yeah, the second part of this book felt way, way different. I like what Tchaikovsky did with it in the end, though. I really enjoyed the way that he used that to explore different aspects of humanity and what the future of humanity might look like. So I really did enjoy what he did with it, but it is a very sudden shift. Like the first book, I couldn't connect to any of the human characters. I'm not sure if you're supposed to, really. I don't know. But I connected more with the non-human characters in this book. So that's also consistent. I'm also a character-based reader. So if you're not, that might not be an issue for you at all with this book. The thematic work and the imaginative aspect of this is on point as usual. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. Didn't love it as much as the first book, which I feel like pretty much everyone says in their review, but it just is what it is. I did really enjoy it though, and it would be worth, you know, spending my money to have the complete set on my shelf because I really did enjoy my experience. If you've watched my March TBR though, I mentioned that there was an audiobook that took a lot longer for me to get through than I expected, and that was Children of Ruin. Like, I enjoyed it when I was listening to it, but it was hard for me to pick it up because it is dense, it is heavy. So yeah, I think it was very, very enjoyable, but it was not a quick read. It's something that you take your time, I think, and get through. Speaking of taking your time, I finally finished Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb! Yes, I got it done on the last day of February. I finished this. So I talk about tabbing. I mean, I went nuts with this book. And when I was writing the review, I had a hard time deciding exactly what I wanted to say because I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's not a new all-time favorite, but this book made me feel. It made me feel things. Like frustration and anger, a lot of that. Happiness as well, you know, grief, sadness. It just made me feel. And a lot of that is down to 2 things, I think. One being Robin Hobb's character work, and the second being her writing. The characters in this book are fully realized, you know, whether they be human or non-human, keeping it spoiler free, but the characters here are fully realized. You understand their motivations, why they do what they do, even when it's really frustrating when they do what they do. Like, Fitz, please just grow 2 brain cells, maybe one would be nice. 1 brain cell would be nice. You know, like, even though some of the decisions the characters make make you so frustrated, you know why they're doing it, because their character is so well developed. Also, the writing is just, people always talk about Robin Hobb's writing, and I'm gonna add to that 100% because she's a magician. Like, I found myself reading and not just enjoying the descriptions or the imagery she was producing, but like the sounds of the words together. Like, she just makes a sentence, and after I would read it, I'd be like, oh, those words sounded so cozy and they just sounded so nice together. And the description isn't even of something of that nature, but the sounds that she puts together, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if anyone else has had that feeling before, but there were just times where I just had to sit and be like, oh, let me sit with those sounds for a minute. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. So her writing is just phenomenal. And the way that she writes intimacy, oh my goodness. Like, it's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. So yeah, I don't want to go too much into my thoughts on this because I am doing a specific Farseer vlog. So you will be getting my beat by beat thoughts on me reading this book, when I was frustrated, when I was angry, and why. You will be privy to that when it happened. So I just have to read the 3rd book, and then, you know, I'll be releasing that vlog for you guys. So I don't want to go too in-depth here. But one of the things that is a bit of a negative is the pacing of this book. Like, I love a slow burn. I do. I love me a slow burn. But this book is so slow. It's so slow. And it's such a contradictory feeling because you want to continue reading. The writing is beautiful. You don't want to stop engaging with this book, but it's so slow that it can be hard to continue. It's weird. It feels like a slog, and yet you don't want to stop at the same time. So I ended up hybrid reading this. I did audiobook and physical as well, and that was a really good solution for me to get through that. But when I say get through that, it wasn't bad. Like, I gave this 4 stars. So it's a really weird contradictory feeling that I had when I was reading this. But yeah, really enjoyed this book. Finally finished it. It's been on God knows how many TBRs since like the middle of last year. And here we are. We did it. We did it! Like I said, you'll be getting more like embellished full thoughts later in the vlog. So I will just leave that here for today. But really happy that I read this. And next on the list is now, what is it? Assassin's Quest, which is a chunker. So wish me luck. That concludes the 5 books that I read in February. Not a really long list, but a good list. All 4 or 5 stars, can't complain there. My scarf is trying to fall off. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these before. I would love to chat with you guys, as always. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell. I'd love to have you as part of this community, and I appreciate it. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Jane!